have been advised to commence with procurement processes on whether costs would be less than 500,000 Rand. This will be done with consultation with central SCMs and 2 chief directors from the district operations. They also provided the commission with a catch-up program, which was a detailed school catch-up program, and in terms of which they would plan to do a curriculum coverage. The KwaZulu-Natal Department of Education had identified areas of intervention with the intention to catch up at the general education and training band, which is grade 1 to 9, and the general further education and training band, grade 10 to 12. In terms of matters of going concern, the commission is concerned about the availability of water and water infrastructure across the affected provinces and municipalities. Tongaat in particular is facing an acute crisis. There's a slow delivery of housing in rural areas, and the recovery or non-recovery of the remains of those who perished or were lost during the floods. We also uncovered that the remains of the damages to the graves have also not been properly attended to. There are a lot of unclaimed bodies in the mortuaries. And we found that an acute effect of floods on persons with disabilities and the elderly was also concerning. There was limited availability of healthcare services during the disaster period, and there was a lack of adequate psychosocial support to all those who were affected. This brings our presentation to an end, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This brings our presentation to an end.
Commissioner Ntuli. I can confirm that indeed we can, as the other joint committee, relate with what we have presented because we have been to those affected areas in all these provinces. Let me allow colleagues to engage the presentation. The first one will be Honorable Proudense. Let me take all the hands at once so that I can allow the commissioners to respond to the question. It's Honorable Proudense. You can start, Honorable Proudense.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. As per our normal, I apologize for not turning my camera on. I've got very low signal. Our normal practice is, my name is Tim Brouterset. I'm a member of the committee and I serve in the National Council of Provinces. Thank you, Chair. I echo your sentiments, thanking the Commission for their report. I would just like to ask one question, and that is in terms of Section 24 of the Constitution, which relates to the rights relating to environment. The Commission may be aware that eThekwini municipality in particular is currently undergoing a massive water and sanitation problem, and specifically sanitation, with sewage running amok in eThekwini, running into rivers, running down roads. It is a complete, slowly reaching a point of almost a complete collapse of the water and sanitation systems in eThekwini. My question is, did the Commission, I don't see any note of that, so did the Commission receive any representations in that regard? Because obviously Section 24A says everyone has the right to an environment that is not harmful to their health and well-being. And then also further on, B1 says to prevent pollution and ecological degradation. So it falls very much within the ambit of the Commission. So did the Commission receive any representations on that? Or did the Commission make any investigations into the free environment rights and the rights not to have pollution and ecological degradation? And if so, will the Commission make a finding in that regard? And if not, will the Commission endeavour to investigate this potential violation of these human rights? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Proudense. Honorable Khai will be followed by Honorable Lutuli. Honorable Khai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, greetings to you and the co-chair and the members of the committee and the commissioners from the South African Human Rights Commission. Chair, I noticed that in the presentation with regard to the Eastern Cape, there are no specific areas that have been visited by the Human Rights Commission, except that there is a general report based on quota report in the Eastern Cape, but there is no specific indication as to what is the situation in Port St. John's, for example, the area that was mostly affected in the Eastern Cape, as well as other areas. The second point that I'm observing is that there has not been interaction with the national departments that are also directly involved in the recovery in the three affected areas. Those are the two concerns I'm raising.
Thank you, Honorable Tuli.
Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings to everyone. My apology for not having my camera on. We have load shedding. I have two questions, Chairperson. One, I would like to know when is the Commission going to table the report on monitoring relief funds in KwaZulu-Natal? As we know that they did their oversight. The second question, I want to find out if have they faced any difficulties or experience any difficulties in executing their monitoring in KwaZulu-Natal? Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Commissioners Ntuli, since Sibanyoni, you can deal with the questions. Ntuli.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyambi, and thank you to the members of the NCOP and members of the National Assembly for the questions. Chairperson, I would like to invite Commissioner Sibanyoni to address the question on Section 27, as he is the Commissioner responsible for matters related to environment as such. Commissioner Nissen, in the immediate aftermath of the floods, especially with relation to Port St. John's that was mentioned, did embark on a provincial visit where he visited a number of areas in the Eastern Cape that were affected by the floods. So Commissioner Nissen may perhaps then address the issues related to the question brought by Honorable Khai. And then with regards to the last question that was asked by Honorable Lutuli on monitoring relief funds, Chairperson, we must report that we work in collaboration with other Chapter 9 institutions in the execution of our respective mandates.
Commissioner Ntuli.
Yes, yes, sir.
If it's possible, not unless you have got a challenge of load shedding, if it's possible for broadcasting the video, it's still appropriate.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. You will excuse me on that. I am load shedding. I am hotspotting from my phone, but I hope that it will carry us through nevertheless. I was addressing the question brought by Honorable Lutuli, Chairperson Nyambi, on monitoring relief funds. And I was saying that we work in collaboration, especially at the level of the FISD, with other Chapter 9 institutions in the execution of our respective mandates. The Auditor General in particular has been doing real-time audits in execution of their mandate to audit the use of funds. And that work on monitoring relief funds, Honorable Lutuli, has been conducted by the Auditor General as late as, I believe it was the 31st of August. The Auditor General did release her first report on the real-time audits that they have been conducting on the matter of floods. Then in relation to your secondary question, which speaks to whether we faced any difficulties. Of course, there will always be difficulties in a time of crisis. For us, the main difficulty that we noted was coordination amongst the various spheres of government. This remains a very, very big problem. Local, provincial, and national government still have a serious difficulty in coordinating themselves. Some of the problems that could have been avoided through better coordination were not because of that lack of coordination. One of the critical roles that the Commission has played is in facilitating some of these engagements across the spheres. And we have found that our role as facilitators has also then led to some breakthroughs in some areas. Thank you very much, Chairperson Nyambi. I will then invite Commissioner Sibanyoni and Commissioner Nissen to also speak to the other two questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Commissioner Sibanyoni, then Commissioner Nissen will follow after. Commissioner Sibanyoni.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyambe. It's nice seeing you and Honorable Frolic after such a long time. Very briefly, the Human Rights Commission has not yet received a report insofar as the environment challenges that have been caused by the floods and the disaster. But I want to assure the Ad-Hoc committee that our Human Rights Office in KZN has already started doing the investigations, because as the Human Rights Commission, we also have got our own initiative, and then the process had already started to investigate insofar as the question of environmental issues are concerned. Thank you very much, Honorable Nyambe and Honorable Frolic.
Thank you, Commissioner Sibanyoni. Indeed, we're happy to see you after a long time. We always see you on TV, busy representing the Commission. Thank you. Commissioner Nissen. Commissioner Ntuli, you can try to call Commissioner Nissen. I think he might be struggling, still muted. The video is on, still muted. Unmute yourself, Commissioner Nissen.
Commissioner Nissen, will you please unmute yourself?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Chairperson. My apologies. This tech doesn't always work in our favor. Good morning, Chairperson Nyambi. Good morning, Chairperson Frolic. Good morning, honorable members of Parliament and fellow commissioners. I concur with my fellow commissioners and our secretariat on the issues that were raised. I've just got one issue that I think which is important, and that is, and we've warned this from the very beginning, the whole issue about political will to implement and the red tape that is there that prevents officials from implementing speedily and rapidly to the needs and the crisis. And this is what we found. Whenever we went into all the areas, for example, in KZN, the issue about water, the issue about people in the halls, all of that. It's
Unmute, Commissioner Nissen. We seem to have lost him.
So that is my comment, Honorable Chair.
We missed the last part. If you can go back to when we were about to get to your last part. There was a part where you muted yourself.
Oh, sorry, it's probably the tech. No, Chairperson, what I'm saying is that as this commission, we're very concerned about the red tape and the slow response to a crisis, the slow response to a rapid desire to make sure that people are assisted. So the issue about water, from day one we were there and people complained about water. People said, even one person in Isipingo, said that, Patrice Motsepe gets 30 million rand. Where are the tankers? Why are water not here? And people start already to protest. And the second thing, of course, is the red tape. And we've been warning as this commission that you cannot, after 8, 6, 7 months after disaster, people still in the halls, people are still looking for water in Tungati and in those areas. And we have been engaged up till about 2-3 weeks ago in terms of trying to resettle people into their places. And that is the concern. And then lastly, Chair, in any disaster, there must be a political will to say, before something breaks out, let us assist our people. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Commissioners. Indeed, I can confirm that what you are presenting and your responses to the questions asked by members of the Ad-Hoc Joint Committee, it's a true reflection of what we have experienced on the ground. You talk of coordination, you talk of political will, you talk of the dignity of the people on the ground being compromised, you talk of the challenges of water, you talk of those affected learners in those shelters. Of course, it's almost 6 months. You still have people stuck in those shelters who have been to those areas. And it was necessary for us to engage you so that we can make those comparisons and see whether what we are getting is what you also got, so that we can be able, when we are reporting in Parliament, to have a report that will cover all relevant stakeholders that we have engaged after a serious engagement with all the relevant stakeholders and visiting those affected areas. Let me take this opportunity and give it to my co-chair, Honorable Frolic, to take the meeting to its logical conclusion. Honorable House Chair, Co-Chair Frolic.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Yambi. I'm sitting here with load shedding, so the visuals are a bit disturbed. May I thank the Human Rights Commission for this interim report. May I also recognize the Honorable Sibanyoni, who have been working with us for years in Parliament, and also wish him well in the work that he's doing very capably in the Human Rights Commission. This report basically reinforces what we have observed on the ground, and it will be discussed in the deliberations that will be taking place of this committee. We envisage that the committee will very soon get into the deliberations and will make the appropriate findings and also recommendations. May I, on behalf of the committee, then thank the Human Rights Commission as one of the Chapter 9 institutions supporting democracy for the work that has been done and for taking the courtesy, correctly so, to share the information with us. It's only when we work together as Parliament with the Chapter 9 institutions where we can harness all the capabilities in ensuring that our people who are affected by various challenges, either of non-delivery or poor coordination of government, to address these challenges. We will ensure that the copy of the report, once it is adopted by Parliament of this Ad-Hoc committee, be forwarded to the Human Rights Commission as well. We will also make recommendations as to specific follow-up work that needs to be done by the different portfolio committees of Parliament, standing committees in the NCOP, as well as government departments that are there. The observation that we are not ready when it comes to dealing with these type of disasters is indeed correct. And we're only now in the primary stages of developing a climate change responsive approach. This is the type of work that will now have to be focused on so that we can ensure that everybody in the system know their roles, responsibilities, but also are there to assist and not to refer simply to the next sphere or tier of government. National government will also have to look into its own operations as to when the president announced these type of disasters, their responsiveness and leadership role that they should play in guiding the provinces and national departments to execute their mandate. Local government is in the face of service delivery issues in our communities, and that is where a lot of interventions and capacity building will have to take place. But once again, thank you very much for this report, and I will now just address a few in-house issues with the members of the Portfolio Committee. The representatives of the Human Rights Commission can thus leave the meeting at their pleasure. As far as the committee is concerned, honorable members, there has been valiant attempts that has been made by the committee section to determine if it is possible to undertake an oversight visit at the end of this week to KwaZulu-Natal to look at the situation of basic education on the ground. We see in the Human Rights Commission report the issue of education also coming forward. And in our last visit, we could see children in those community halls. It was during school time and they were not in school. We are thus proposing that instead of undertaking a physical visit to KwaZulu-Natal this coming Friday, that is fraught with challenges. We, for instance, would have to travel early in the morning from, firstly, fly to Joburg on Thursday evening, sleep over in Joburg, take an early flight to KZN, conclude our work, fly back to from KZN to Joburg, and on Saturday leave to the different provinces due to flight challenges. There's also a lack of accommodation in KwaZulu-Natal due to a number of things that are happening there. And we are thus proposing that we do not undertake that visit, physical visit this Friday, but instead we will have a virtual engagement with the Department of Basic Education and especially the KwaZulu-Natal MEC and officials to find out the state of schooling, especially in the areas that has been affected by the floods and what is happening in terms of interventions, whether it is to the physical infrastructure, but also support to those learners that are currently not attending school. And this communication will go out formally to all members of the committee as well. We will then thus also not undertake the follow-up visit to Ugu municipality on Friday, because we believe they are still in the process of doing certain things that they were supposed to do. And we will advise the committee on the way forward when we convene formally to start our deliberations on the report. I don't know if there's any questions of clarity from the members. It's quite clear in terms of the way forward. Honorable Jambi, do you want to comment?
No, I'm fine. I'm enjoying your voice, Co-Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, with the Honorable Mantu. Honorable Mantu.
Good morning, Chair. Morning, everybody. I'm also under HCOM's message. I apologize for my video not being on. Chair, I think your proposition is welcome. However, I think we have not done justice to Eastern Cape, in particular Port St. John's. I know that the program is suggesting that we are about to consider a first draft final report. However, also listening to the representation that came in now, it's clear that there is a feeling that Eastern Cape didn't receive the attention as much as KZN, albeit we all know the devastation is not proportional. However, it is my view that the co-chairs could consider a follow-up to Eastern Cape, in particular Port St. John's, nothing else but Port St. John's. But what you submitted, Chair, I do support. I think it's understandable. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Broutser.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm mindful of the fact that we are considering, going to be considering our interim report. One of the factors that has been raised today by the Commission and also by the Auditor General was the lack of preparation. You will remember that when we were in Pretoria, I had managed to arrange that we could visit that Disaster Manager Center in Cape Town. And I thought that perhaps a visit there before we do our interim report might be useful. Obviously, it's in the hands of the chairs, but just wanted to remind the committee that that department of COCTA is more than happy to accommodate us and happy to see us at our convenience. They're just waiting for a date from us. But perhaps just input from them in terms of what the scenario should have looked like before the floods, and their advice in that regard might be useful for the report before we do it. I don't want to mess up the timeline, but it's just a suggestion. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Honourable Member. No, I've discussed this matter with the co-chairperson. We engage with the National Disaster Centre. So if there's going to be any engagement, then we will want to get from the National Disaster Centre a sense of what is happening and also the good practices that may be there in other provinces. But we're looking into the matter and we will advise the committee accordingly. May I also say that I take into account the comments made by the Honourable Magu, and I've also here on the chat group seen the message from the Honourable Menke. We will be discussing that and we will revert back to the committee in due course, in the same way that we will be busy processing the proposal by the Honourable Broutusser. Are there any further comments?
Chair, I think Honourable Bacha has raised his hand.
I don't see his hand. The Honourable Bacha?
No, Chairperson, I dropped my hand because you mentioned that you will consider what Honourable Mangu has raised, because I also had a chat with some of the Eastern Cape MPs who said that nothing is happening in the Port St. John's area. And so I wanted to support that be considered. So I'm covered, Chair, by what you just said. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. Are there any further interventions? There's no further interventions. Chair? Yes.
Apologies, I'm not able to raise my hand because I'm hosting the meeting. I just thought I should bring this to the attention of the meeting. The fact that with the cancellation, with the proposed cancellation, and I see that it's being agreed to, so it's most likely to happen. The logistics team has already confirmed everything. It's already confirmed flights, accommodation, and all the other services that are required. That will therefore mean that Parliament will be losing money on the services that have already been paid for, if then the cancellation continues. We, however, note the concern from apologies from the honourable members, but we thought we should just let the meeting know that with the cancellation will come an irregular expenditure, or rather a cost that has not been accounted for.
Nola, please, can we deal with administrative matters with the two chairpersons, please? We are aware of the implications. The committee has now agreed to what will happen this week. We are fully aware of that, and we will deal with the matter as we proceed. Are there any further interventions from the members? There's no further interventions. Honourable Nyambi, is there anything else before I close the meeting?
I'm fine. I think anything will address it outside this meeting, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. Honourable members, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Chairperson.